Good afternoon, my dear students. In today's lesson, we are going to talk about Charles Dickens' life. One of the Charles Dickens' life and the creative activity. Charles Dickens, one of the best known and best loved of all English novelists. So Charles Dickens was born in 1812 and he died in 1870. So let's continue our lesson. Born on the 7th of February 1812 and in Portsmouth. Dickens left school at age 11 to work in a boot-blacking factory when his father John was incarcerated in debtor's prison. After 3 years he returned to school before beginning his literary career as a journalist. So Dickens' literary success began with the 1833 serial publication of the Pickwick Papers, a publishing phenomenon thanks largely to the introduction of the character Samuel in the fourth episode. So Dickens had become an international literary celebrity, famous for his humor, satire, and a keen observation of character in society. And his novels, most of them published in monthly or weekly installments, pioneered the serial publication of narrative fiction, which became the dominant Victorian mode for novel publication. So Charles, as a reporter, just before his 70th birthday, he became a reporter for the newspapers in the House of Commons. He read every book he could find and spent long hours in the reading room of the British Museum. So his pen name was. In 1883, Dickens had a number of papers published under the title Sketches by Boz, and they were very warmly received the excellent accounts of the London of his time. Then his 1843 novella Christmas Carol remains especially popular and continues to inspire adaptations in every creative medium. Oliver Twist and The Great Expectations are also frequently adapted and, like many of his novels, evoke images of early Victorian London. His 1853 novel Bleak House, a satire on the judicial system, helped support a reformist movement in the 70s. A Tale of Two Cities is regarded as his best-known work of historical fiction. The most famous celebrity of his era he undertook in response to public demand. So, in 1832, at the age of 20, Dickens was energetic and increasingly self-confident. He enjoyed mimicry and purple entertainment, lacked a clear, specific sense of what he wanted to become, and yet knew he wanted fame. So he, the Pickwick Club, it's the publishing house Chapman and Hall, asked Dickens to write a series of sketches of a group of sportsmen full of amusing incidents. His group of characters came to life under the title, The Pickwick Club. It is about Mr. Pickwick and his 3 friends who traveled about England and sent to the club an account of their journeys. Family life. Charles Dickens loved Catherine Howarth, the daughter of Mr. Hogarth, a clever newspaper writer, and they were married in April 1836. Literary career. His next novel was Oliver Twist, a nameless orphan. Oliver had to be sent to the workhouse, and the novel Dickens described what he had learned in his hard childhood. Take it, the cruel workhouse, treatment of children. Dickens was a reformer, and his stories, which is called Hard Times, Charles Dickens, and Charles Dickens of the Old Curiosity Shop, Nicholas Nickley, Martin Roosevelt also, his work, and the Bleak House, The Tale of Two Cities, all these works of the Charles Dickens. And his stories was sad or humorous, often served as a protest against abuses of social and the political life of his time. And he worked and poured out novel after novel. Success followed success, and he made more money fast. So in 1833, Dickens submitted his first story, A Dinner at Poplar Walk, to the London periodical monthly magazine. His uncle William Barrow offered him a job on the Mirror of Parliament, and he worked in the House of Commons for the first time. Early in 1832, he rented rooms at Furnival's Inn and worked as a political journalist, reporting on parliamentary debates, and he traveled across Britain to cover election campaigns for the Morning Chronicle. The Tavistock House. Dickens moved to a huge building, the Tavistock House, and there he had his library containing a lot of books. During quiet and the silence, he wrote for the next 11 years, and there his greatest stories were to be written. So, also, his favorite child. Dickens wrote, I have in my heart of hearts a favorite child, and his name is David Copperfield. Writing the story of David Copperfield, he was writing the story of his own unhappy childhood. It is indeed a masterpiece. So Dickens traveled to America, France, Italy, and Switzerland. His hobby now became public readings. It was too exciting, and it shortened his life. He loved the applause, the constant movement. So let's continue at Gad's Hill. At Gad's Hill, during the summer of 1855, Dickens was working on Little Dorrit. In 1857, he bought Gad's Hill, settled there, and lost himself in writing two more novels, Great Expectations and Our Mutual Friend. So, let's talk about the literary style. Dickens' approach to the novel is influenced by various things, including the picaresque novel tradition. According to Accord, other than this, perhaps the most important literary influence on him was derived from the fables. Comedy is also an aspect of the British picaresque and the novel tradition of Lawrence Sterne. No other writer had such a profound influence on Dickens as William Shakespeare. On Dickens' veneration of Shakespeare, Alfred Herwich wrote in A Kind of Power, Shakespeare-Dickens analogy, that no one is better qualified to recognize literary genius than a literary genius. Regarding Shakespeare as the greatest masterpiece, whose plays were an unshakable source of delight, Dickens' lifelong affinity with the playwright, and they included seeing theatrical productions of his plays in London and putting on amateur dramatics with friends in his early years. So, Dickens' writing style is marked by a proposed linguistic creativity, satire flourishing in his gift for caricature is his forte. An early review compared him to the artist and the social critic, Hogarth for his keen, practical sense of the ridiculous side of life. Though his acclaimed mastery of varieties of the class item may in fact mirror the conventions of contemporary popular theatre, Dickens worked intensively on developing arresting names for his characters. So Dickens had his last work, and Dickens had to give up his readings. He still enjoyed long walks in the country, but his left foot was painful. By June, he had written half of Edinburgh, the 22nd volume of his novel. Half was never written. England had much to mourn, for she had lost the most creative genius her literature had known since Shakespeare, and Dickens was buried in the heart of London, in Westminster Abbey, in the Poets' Corner. His grave was left open for several days, and thousands of people came to put flowers around his tombstone. So you can see the tombstone here, Charles Dickens Museum. A pioneer of the serial publication of narrative fiction, Dickens wrote most of his major novels in monthly or weekly installments in journals such as Master Hamley Club and the Household Words. Later, reprinted in book form, these installments made the stories affordable and accessible, with the audience more evenly distributed across income levels than before. So, Dickens' novels were, among other things, works of social commentary. Simon Cowell states from the moment he started to write, he spoke for the people, and the people loved him for it. So, also, you can see from the pictures the house of Charles Dickens and all the details, all the things which he used all his life. And Charles Dickens, from 1812 to 1870, novels lived here. So, literary techniques. Let's talk about the literary techniques of this Charles Dickens. Dickens is often described as using idealized characters and highly sentimental scenes to contrast with his caricatures and the ugly social truths he reveals. So, the question as the Dickens belongs to the tradition of the sentimental novel is debatable. Bella Horton, in her book Dickens and the Sentimental Tradition, sees him continuing aspects of this tradition and argues that his sentimental scenes and characters are as crucial to the overall power of the novel as his darker or comic figures and the scenes, and that Dombey and the Sun is Dickens' great strength in the sentimentalist tradition. So, museums and festivals celebrate Dickens' life and works existing in many places with which Dickens was associated. This includes the Charles Dickens Museum in London, the historic home where he wrote Oliver Twist, the Pickwick Paper, and the Nicholas Nicolay, and the Charles Dickens Birthplace Museum in Portsmouth, the house in which he was born. So, at home, we must write down all these facts about the Charles Dickens, and you can see from this presentation all the commentators